It's so nice to have you all here, and we will be going through this. We'll meet some people here on stage, we'll have some conversations, and at the end we'll have a Q&A. And I just want to stress that this is a safe space, and I want you to feel that you can ask what you want to ask. This is a flowing conversation that we're having here. So, without further ado, I've never said that before in my life, but it just felt right, and we're in a really posh place, so I felt like a bit fancy. Okay, I don't know where the gang are, but we have award-winning rapper and musician Kid Bookie here. If you'd like to come down. We also have Ekong from Decolonise Fest collective member right here as well. And Laviea Thomas, culture journalist, if you want to take a seat here.
That's just a good fucking seat.
Culture journalist here as well, thank you. And can we also get one of those for the corset? Because I mean, a clap for the corset. Come on. There we go.
A little bit of commotion for the dress.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking at this event.
Thank you for giving us singles.
Thank you.
That means more than anything. Do you know what I'm saying?
It can be a hard topic to speak on a lot of the time, and it can be one of those things that it's like a pressure. Like, right, okay, you four, let's fix racism.
We're going to change the world! We'll knock it out in one night, easy. Yeah, fine.
There can be a bit of pressure. Done it, mate. So let's just start just with a quick summary each of rock and racism and why this is an oh, this is gonna, you might as well crack your knuckles there. Why this is an important topic to you. If you want to touch on your past, you can do. If you just want to keep it current and broad, you can do as well. Should we start with you, Lav, first?
Yeah. I think the reason this is such an important conversation to have is I think time after time, Black people have really provided to be the blueprint of rock and roll and soul in this scene that I'm in. You know, whether that's from like Sister Rosetta Tharpe from the 40s, one of the first Black women to sing and play guitar, to Lead Belly, who obviously did that song Where Did You Sleep Last Night, which you probably know from Nirvana covering it on MTV Unplugged. I think historically we have been there, we have been the blueprint, and it's just so weird to be in it as of current and to see people like ourselves slightly missing from the narrative. So I think it's important to just sort of have this topic sort of over and over again to make sure that people actually recognise and understand like where the meaning of rock and racism and the meaning of where rock stems from and how we can see more people like ourselves like in this scene. Yeah, I think that's sort of why it's important to me, really. I think the industry has sort of managed to glaze over like the history of growing up. I didn't really think rock was like a Black thing or that, you know, there was a Blackness associated within it, but it's so deep rooted and it's so forgotten. Yeah, so I think it's just important to have that conversation and to not forget about our ancestors and the people that have paved the way for rock today and the incredible artists that we're seeing like of colour in the rock scene right now that are doing amazing things. Yeah.
And it's interesting. Good point. It's interesting what you said there, because Alex, I saw you nodding when Lav said about rock not being a Black thing. What was it about that made you yes?
It absolutely chimes with my experience growing up, kind of, yeah. So I grew up in the suburbs. I went to a mostly white school and was always kind of, you know, people, you know, the kids in my class were into these bands like Linkin Park, like Fall Out Boy, like that kind of thing. And I never really questioned it. I never questioned, like, you know, being into those bands or being interested in that kind of thing. You know, for me, something that, like, generally was like a turning point in my life was the Jay-Z Linkin Park Collision Course record.
Yeah, there's how many people are not into that.
I know people were gonna feel me on that, but like genuinely, like for a kid who grew up with, you know, kind of Black influences from my family, who, you know, mostly listened to, you know, hip hop, R&B, you know, jazz, that kind of thing, to see that and realize, oh, there's this whole other world out there, and it's okay, you know, to see someone like Jay-Z use his platform to bring over, you know, people to that side of things. It made me feel not weird, but then you go into these mostly white environments. You touched on it earlier when you were making your intro, being the only black person at a gig, and you know, going to all these environments and being the only black person there, and looking through magazines and not looking through rock magazines and not seeing black faces, you now start to feel like you're being ostracized and feel like the weird kid. So I think really why it's important for me, and it kind of boils down to that thing everybody says, that representation matters. Because if you can see it in, you know, a mainstream, you know, rock outlet like Kerrang, and you grow up with bands and influences that actually look like you, it suddenly doesn't become this huge. It doesn't become this huge like rift between you and wanting to get involved in the scene. Like it feels natural, and it should. So I think that's my hope for the kids coming up after us, is that it feels natural for them to be into rock music, to be into metal and the alternative scene.
I think that's a really powerful point, and I think something I'd like to add to that is, and I don't know if anyone else here has experienced this, or if you've experienced it, but I remember, and this is just one instance that pops into my mind, but there were many that happened, walking to a gig to go see Lamb of God, and I was ready to go see them, and this is before like dressing alternative became cool. Now like everyone does it. It's like a thing now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember getting called a traitor, and I think that was the hardest thing. Coconut?
Trust.
Oh well. Yeah, coconut.
It's your own kind, you know. That's
Yeah.
And it was a really hard place, because it was like I'd walk into these rock spaces and it's like, what are you doing here? And then I'd be like going near black spaces and it'd be like, what the hell are you doing? You're an outsider. So you become an outsider of everything.
Facts.
And I think that is why representation, as you say, if you can't see it, you can't be it. Representation matters, and that is why people like you, Kid Bookie, are so important in this scene and so needed. It's about time that we had more people like you. A Kid Bookie, yes. What is it for you? Because, as I said backstage, Bookie felt like, you know those cars you have as a kid where you just roll in them back and they have like so much? I know that there is so much that it will have taken for you to be sat here as an artist that everybody knows.
It's weird. Well, it's not weird. Well, maybe it is weird, but you don't interpret it as weird because it's your normality at the time. But you grow up, you exist, you come out of a womb, and the world is just what it is. And then you go into the spaces you're born in, depending on the areas you're born into, it depends on the experiences you're gonna have. And I am from South London, which is like Woolwich, Plumstead, Greenwich, etc. So I'm surrounded by a lot of community that's Indian, African, white, fucking anything you can imagine. Any part of the process of the earth existing is there. And you know, so you know, everything's there to learn and grasp at. And then you know, you make your character via the choices you see or the mirrors of your parents. You know, they're quite a massive influence. And in my house, you know, I didn't know, my dad's a white dude from Bermondsey, my mum's an African woman from Nigeria. And so I didn't, you know, I'm just born. I don't question what they are, I just see human beings. And then, you know, my dad was a rapper in the 80s called MC Radic and the Wheels of Steel with his DJ. But he was a fight the power type of dude, and I only learned that later on. But it was all like, you know, like, I gotta make sure the world just knows that we gotta heal and do. But he's a white guy too, so it's like, so it's cool. But at the same time, he had early pressings of Nirvana albums, and the singles, Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it had In Bloom and shit on it. And I fucking loved blown out, distorted guitars from the day I could have heard them. So I was always like, I guess, tailored and leaning towards, I guess, obnoxiously loud sounds that are not in line with anything. It's a blown out friggin' guitar coming out through fucking electric. You know what that means? That's insane. So I love that shit. So when you get older, you go to school, and now my whole character's been molded around what I'm seeing. I'm enjoying, like, the first thing I kind of gravitated to was guitars and rock music. I wasn't really into rap yet, contrary to what I do today. But I wasn't into it at all, because it wasn't something, my dad loved rapping, but I was more like, yo, I like these guitars and shit. But I go to school and I express, I was skateboarding from early, you know, I'm skating. I'm not clocking that. I don't even think that I'm the only black guy skating in my group. There's a few others, but you're surrounded by white guys. One of my brothers in the crowd today is one of the ones I skated with when it was early, but I'm not looking at him like, you're my nigger. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, you're my dog, and so is Charles. I don't know anything. Because I'm still learning, and this is like, but then you go to school. You go to school, and I took my skateboard to school, and this is when I started to learn embarrassment a little bit of who I am, and everything. And it took a long time to kind of develop strength to find out who innate I am inside. But I go to school, I'm skateboarding, and skateboarding's normal to me. It shouldn't make me feel weird, but I'm going to school and doing ollies, and people are like, I do a kickflip. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. What? Why are you laughing at me for kickflipping? It's a fucking skill.
Yeah.
So, you know, then I'll start getting, like, time goes on, people making me feel weird for skate, because no one skaters in my school. You know, it's grime music's really big right now in school, so I'm like, I'm listening to My Chem and Slipknot and fucking Good Charlotte's first album, and it's like, but that's normal to me. I haven't found out that it's not normal yet, until I'm, like, playing the music out loud, and everyone's like, that's disgusting. I'm like, but why? You know, why is this disgusting? And now I'm getting embarrassed about skateboarding and rock music. So now, but I'm surrounded by people that look like me, black people, and but I'm getting clowned on for being, I guess, not what the idea of what blackness is at the time, because most people are learning from what black is from their elders in the end. And I'm from South, so the lingo and the linguistics and the whatever I use are all from what I know. And blackness is a precedence which serves as you have to do this, this, and the other to be black. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm in school now, I'm very impressionable, but I'm skateboarding and I listen to rock music, and apparently this is not black. So what do? I cut off every piece of wing I had before I could even fly, and now I am in gangs because I have to fit blackness. And I'm not saying that's what blackness is, but at the time, it's not their fault, but this is what the idea of blackness is being sold to us. But by who? You know? But I don't know, because I'm just following the idea of the trend of what I have to be, at the time, I just think it's to be a big dog, be accepted by people that are gonna watch me die later on in this story. Yeah. I didn't die, by the way. But
We're glad, yeah.
You know. And sorry if it's long-winded. I hate like just, but it's just, I guess I don't. You gotta just fucking live the story, right? So, and then now I'm in the gangs and shit. I've denounced who I am. The guy that said "ugh" when I was playing Vermilion to him to tell him how sick these sonics are. I'm now listening to music that also served a purpose on me, because if I didn't learn how to fucking spit like that, I wouldn't be here today. So, you know, linear patterns are linear patterns, and there's not really a negative or a positive. It just depends on how you choose to put all of these into one egregious moment. And but yeah, I've denounced everything I'm being, and I'm fitting the idea of blackness. I'm 14. I've stopped skateboarding. I'm 15. I laugh at the skaters now. I've become that guy. Do you know what I mean? I'm laughing at the fucking skaters. Like, ugh, look at that. Kickflip now. You know what I mean? I feel powerful, shit. I feel powerful for asking them to kickflip. But because I'm literally trying to find people who don't give a shit about me to give a shit about me for being cool to fit this idea. But again, I don't know it's blackness yet. You learn these things later on. And so now I'm going through there, I'm going through these things. I'm in the gangs. I'm sorry about chatting, but you know what I'm saying? But I'm in the gangs. I'm in the fucking gangs and shit. And I don't give a fuck about nothing. I've left home at 15. I'm raising someone else's baby. So it's my youth, bro. Fuck off. And which is not a problem. You can do anything you want, but the way I was doing it just was not good. So just raise good families. And yeah, I'm just lost. I've left home. No one gives a fuck. I'm doing nothing that I was who I am. Who the most innocent version of who I am. What learned the things that I loved based off influence that made me feel I have to be something else. And now I'm getting stabbed by my own kind because I'm choosing to beef them over ideas and ideologies sold to me from my own people, but they're learning from other places that sold us the idea of blackness. So when I'm lying in the hospital and I've got fucking stab wounds and I'm seeing the guy that stabbed me in the hospital with me, because he's been stabbed like that same day, literally, no bullshit. I'm just like thinking now, I'm starting to think, and I'm like, this isn't right. So you tap in and you start to go back to your friends that you love, you know what I'm saying? And you start to pick up the guitar again. You start to listen to everything you love, but you've picked up music. You start to rap in, but you're in this place and the black people think you're weird because you're still listening to rock music, and they haven't been sold the idea that they don't even know yet that black rock music is black, because we have to listen to grime, we have to listen to rap, which is not a problem, but we have to be the idea of blackness that I don't know who invented it yet, but we have to be that idea. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you're in here and you know what I did, you know what I'm fucking talking about.
I'm not your stereotype.
I'm not your stereotype, nor will I even be your political token to an idea to be like, yeah, this is what the idea is. So, you know, yeah, I went through that story, and you come out the other end kind of like upset with yourself and your friends, because your friends are innocent, but they're conditioned and their synapses in their brain are being led to believe that the precedence of blackness is to be a fucking idiot sometimes. And that isn't sold by black people, that's sold by an idea conjured by people that we don't even know, that are just in suits and collars, and most of them are fucking whites, to be honest. So
Nas spoke out about it.
yeah, and so now that's why the fight is so much deeper than just like I come on here and write tweets and say you gotta believe my blackness. It's like no, it's big, it's deep, it's innate, it's about changing the fact that there's no idea to blackness. It's literally being an individual, an authentic, vulnerable, honest, scared, fearful, every part of the human condition you can engage with, and just try to be not even a better person, because better means you start denouncing things that are actually in you. Just gotta be a person that learns, fails, until we can all come to this conglomerate idea that we're okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for long.
I think you brought up some really powerful topics there, and I think some of the biggest ones are stereotypes. And I do believe that we all need to challenge ourselves on stereotypes, and that is not just white people, it's also black people. And a lot of it has been fed through media for years, spoon-fed to us. I watched an old episode of Charmed, sorry to call Charmed out, I love that TV show, I love that show. And apart from the one policeman, everybody was... I've just sent you back in time, haven't I? I have. And everybody on that show, apart from like the one policeman, everyone was a thief. That was the only time you ever saw them. And they would always have their jeans down here and their pants hanging out, and that was the only time you saw them.
Get off my back, man. You fucking with me, man.
And do you know what gets me is it's very rare, apart from maybe Carlton, that you get shown somebody who's black and a nerd. And do you know what? We have diversity in our personalities as well. We don't all just come out in a homogenous way. And I think that's one of the topics. I think that's what you brought up that needs to be discussed. Does that ring true with either of you? Because I saw you both nodding there. Have you ever felt like you've been challenged for being...
Yeah, definitely. I think just growing up black, you're constantly challenged, you know, about your blackness, about what it means to be black, and as you say, like we're all to sort of blame for stereotypes, you know. Even sometimes I will like dig into the stereotypes just because it's fun and because I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. I think, you know, there's been, you know, sort of countless times where I've sort of been questioned about my blackness, whether that's sort of in journalism or at uni or at school, and it is something that definitely sort of rings true. And I think something that, you know, mentioned earlier was a little bit about when we were saying sometimes it's your own kind, and sort of like as we were saying about the sort of internalized racism. That's just as important to talk about as it is just like the racism that we experience from white people. Like as much as it's important to have these conversations with white people, it's our mums, our dads, our grandparents, you know, who we should also be having these conversations with, because that internalized racism kind of brings us up to feel certain hatred and certain angers about ourselves and about how we should appeal as a black person, you know. Yeah, I think on countless occasions I've sort of had people sort of like question my blackness of like, oh, you don't sound black, or oh, like,
you
which
don't
is such
sound black.
That's,
Well, that is the one
that
that
is
drives me
so unbelievably rogue. Like, I can, like, what does that even mean? And then also, like, music wise as well, I will literally listen to anything. Like, as you say, we're sort of pinpointed to believe that we need to be listening to like hip hop and grime and drill. Like, yes, I absolutely love those genres and I do listen to them. Like those genres.
Get off of it!
Like, Missy Elliott was my life, okay? Growing up, I loved her. But, like, equally, you know, I absolutely love rock music, and I feel like this is so cliche and so cringy, but, like, we don't fit a box of, like, you listen to, like, this band, or you dress this way, or you talk this way. Like, yes, we obviously do have, like, inside jokes because we're a race, we're a culture. Like, there is a culture within it. But, like, that does not mean that we sit into these small boxes of this means black and this means white, you know? It's not that simple. But yeah, I kind of completely forgot what your question was for me.
No, you made a lot of very good points. Alex, did you have something to say there?
Yeah, I got a story that kind of relates to, you know, the kind of music that you're supposed to be listening to. I have a very vivid memory of bopping down the corridor in my sixth form college, and, you know, have my headphones in, you know, it was probably the Black Parade or something of that general era, or some of that ilk, you know. And then one of the other kids in the year literally came up to me, pulled my earphone out of my ear, put it to his ear, and was like, shouldn't you be listening to 50 Cent?
Shut up.
Like, bro. That was, literally that was one of, like, the craziest things that's, like, happened to me. But it's real. It's like, there's a real expectation of, especially when you are, you know, one of the only ones, or you know, you're one of the only black people in this particular environment. Like, people want you to perform a kind of version of blackness because that's what they've expected, or that's what they've seen on TV. So if you don't measure up in that kind of, you know, if you don't measure up to that kind of standard, that opens you up for criticism. And it's the same way when you talk about internalized racism. You know, there was, you know, being around kind of white kids at school and then not feeling like you know, feeling ostracized and being different in that respect. And then for me, like, seeing the black kids at church be like, man, what's going on? Why are you listening to that shit? Like, why are you wearing that weird t-shirt? Is a really interesting, you know, there's a really interesting divide there. And I think, yeah, you, like you say, you are constantly having your credentials checked. And yeah, that's something I've learned as I've grown up. Like, you know, I've learned try not to, you know, but you can be an individual. And, you know, the message is there in all of these songs that we all listen to by all these bands, that, you know, there is, you know, individuality is there to be taken, and it's not, you know, it's not like that doesn't apply to us as black people. That's a message that we should all kind of adopt, I think.
100%. I think that's a really powerful point. Thanks for saying that. And I think I think about it, I always think it's getting better, and I always think things are getting better. But when I had a meeting, I've got 1,000,001 stories, as you can imagine, but I remember having a meeting trying to get my first presenter agent, and I was like, I want to work for certain radio stations. And I remember this agent sitting across from me, very well-known agent, and he said, do you know what, you would be great for the big radio station. The problem is you don't sound black, and they only like people who sound black. But everything else looks great. And I was like, and that's the point, we were discussing this backstage, and I turned to him and I said, you know, you get black people in Yorkshire as well. You know, we're not just all from London, and we have different accents. It's just how it works. So I think there's some really interesting points here, and I am aware of time because we are moving on here. And I just feel like this is a vat that we could just dig deep into. And I think some of these stories, and I say this to the cameras in the room, to anyone who works in the industry, the reason this needs to be taken on board, because this is the reason representation matters. This is the reason why, okay, a black artist just yet might not be Metallica size. They might not be able to get to that size, but it doesn't mean that you as an individual shouldn't be pushing artists like that and pushing them forward, because unless we show them, unless we represent them, unless we see that diversity, how are we going to get more black people in this scene? Because let's be completely honest, and I know there's probably going to be Americans watching this, because no offense, Americans, you watch these things about race and you ruin everything. But it's true, isn't it?
Comment section's about to be mad.
I know, I've just taken on America. Like, I am never allowed in the country
Why don't you
again.
just go back to where they came from?
But I want to bring up this. I went on TikTok today, and people aren't really even using hashtags anymore, but Black Alternative has 26.7 million views. Black Alt has 186.8 million views. That is kids who are black, who are posting about being black, about being rock fans across the globe. And so that is an untapped audience. If there's any musicians in this room, would you like 186.8 million fans? So there are black fans out there, but because they're not being represented, and black people are having to show, in a lot of these videos on TikTok, rock is a guilty pleasure. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that way. And the reason it is that way is because there's been that segregation. So now it's time to change that for once and for all. Because it's worse now than I'm telling you now, it is worse. When I see the comment section of when I do a video, it is worse now on social media, to be black on social media, than it was when I was doing it 10 years ago. I used to get, oh my God, a chick who knows about metal, that's awesome. And now I get, what's this effing N-word doing chatting? Why don't you go back to 50 Cent? Why? And it's like, I'm sorry, sir. I've forgotten more about rock than you will ever even learn. Like, Do you want me to call up all my rock star friends? No, I won't flex that hard. Make them a video. Anyway, so I think that's where we were at. That's the experiences that we go through. Do you think it's changed since Black Lives Matter? Do you think that there's been, because I think everybody was talking about a change, so many outlets started trying to do things. Are you feeling a change? Whoever wants to take that can go.
After you.
Yeah, I think there's like two ways to like look at this shit, because first and foremost, you got to kind of take like human naivety into the subject, and most people like are not thinking about my black experience every day, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not expecting you to walk past and go, oh, I hope he's okay. Like, I honestly don't even give a single fuck if you do.
But did you get that during BLM? Because I got messages going,
Oh, yeah.
I just want to let you know I'm learning about race.
There's a message I got, there's a time someone messaged me and just went, look, I just need to check in with you and hope you're okay during this time. And in my head, I'm thinking, brother, I'm going to die, just like you, and I probably could have cancer the same way as you can. Don't separate me, I'm still fucking the same as you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like, come on, don't treat me like Bane. Don't throw me into a box and then say, when he walks in, every guy, just make sure he's okay. Because now you're making me feel like a fox in the garden. Do you know what I mean? But again, like I said, take human naivety into it. Some people their overly caring sensitivity could be like that. And you kind of got to separate between the bullshit and what's like pandering. And for me, the pandering is like, one of my biggest allies in the music, in the recent years of the music game, is a white man called Corey fucking Taylor from Slipknot,
Oh, flex.
Yeah.
No, but,
Oh.
but I mean that in the sense of, he gave me a platform to be black in rock music. Do you know what I mean? He jumped on my rap rock song the first time we ever did this shit and made it my biggest song I've ever had. He's rapping. He's not a rapper in the traditional sense. But he's rapping his arse off on a song, slower tempo than normal, and he's letting me fucking shine. Like, and it's like, this man is from Iowa, where there's heroin addicts everywhere and the darkness consumes everyone. Do you know what I mean? So he knows what it's like to be, I guess, close to some sort of bullshit, where you have to learn who the fuck you are. And I say Corey in that sense because, like I said, no one gave a fuck before that. I have been doing rock-based guitar music for 10 years before. ID Magazine in 2014 wrote me as the grime rock rapper. I'm not even doing grime.
Oh
Do
my
you know what I mean? But it's cool because there wasn't time. I wasn't thinking about I'm a representation. I know there's Scar Lord and shit like that, but there's so many other things that are not just a Scar Lord, you know? So I'm not thinking I'm this black representation. Kind of like now I look at it because I get messages about it every other day now. But at the time, I was just doing what I loved. And like I said, I've come through that bullshit era of fucking whatever, and now I'm just doing what I love. But I guess BLM and all this shit, it made it like, I guess, more people could look at me because it was a time to be trendy. Not trendy like in a sense, it's just a movement, right? Like everyone's focused on them stuff, and there's articles, but at the same time, before that shit happened, I was exposed to Middle America by doing that song with Corey, and god damn did I see what the fuck racism is. But I won't, like, it sounds crazy, I wasn't mad at it because I have to internalize, why are you mad? And that's because, again, the lack of representation is the fact that you don't see me as a rock artist because, first of all, I'm rapping. So I kind of get where the confusion can be, but that doesn't define how, like, the future of what's going on. It only defines a little tiny section of the moment, you know? And
But why is it when, this is one of the things I call out again and again that really, really annoys me, why is it when a black man raps on a rock track that all of a sudden it's put with these black labels of whatever, but when a white man does it, it's nu metal?
Because again, that when we go back to again, who sold the idea of blackness, what blackness is supposed to be, it's not rock. And this rock, that creeps into people's heads from where we're from, it look like us, and it's like rock isn't a black thing. It's a fucking, first and foremost, most people come from Christian fucking houses when you're black. So your mums aren't even letting you listen to that shit because they're sold the idea that this is devil music.
Yeah.
And then the white kids just want to listen to the black hip hop shit because it's cool, and they want to kind of be cool too. From where I'm from, I can only define, like I said, area based, innit? And then it's wider than that. So it's like these crosshairs of bullshit, because that's what it is. It's a crosshairs of bullshit are so distorted based on culture, place, identity, and what we're supposed to be. It's like no one knows what the fuck it is. It's just a thing. And blackness or whatever, like you said, when it's nu metal, it's because the idea of black is 50 Cent and hip hop. So when I do that, I'm 50 Cent on fucking rock. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm not a rock artist. Only now, because I keep going on Twitter saying, fuck you, and stop putting me in a goddamn box, is there fucking saying, artist Kid Bookie. But goddamn, when I see rapper Kid Bookie, do I want to? No, I rap. But that is not my definition, motherfuckers. I will literally fight you to the death. Not you, but like.
But no, you too. And I'm going to come to you in a second because I think your take on this is really important. But something I just wanted to add to what you said, Bookie, is do you know what? I'm not looking for credit here, but the thing that gets me angry to the point I can feel it is when I championed Nova Twins, when they first were a band, and in the early days from 2015 when they had Baseline Bitch, and I was championing them and no one would listen, and they had more and more tracks. Do you know who else was championing them? D12. Why are D12 having to step in to raise up the rock bands? Where the hell was the scene? Where the hell was everybody? And now everybody's like, oh yeah, we supported them right from the start. Yeah. And that doesn't just go for Nova Twins, that goes for you. That goes for Horror. Yeah. That goes for all of these bands who were in the scene, but were excluded. And I'm sorry to get angry about it, but it is one of those topics that's very, very passionate. And now it's like, it's not just about making everybody tokens and going, right, we've ticked a box, we've covered them. It's about taking it that step further. And there must have been changes for you especially, because nobody liked hearing the decolonize.
Such a scary
before,
word.
Like, now it's kind of like, yes, I know, yeah. We can kind of admit it, but going around saying Decolonize Festival, I imagine the amount of doors shut.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Decolonize Fest is so awesome.
Literally, I was on my way to Decolonize Fest 2022, which was the last edition that we did. And Mum stopped me whilst I was going out the door, like, is your, like, Decolonize Fest, like, are you sure you should be hanging out with those people? Like, what's going on? Are you all right? Like, yeah, I definitely shouldn't, show you all the abolish the police literature that I've got in my room. But anyway, yeah, so for Decol, for those of you who don't know, by the way, Decolonize Fest is a DIY not-for-profit festival that's put on by a group of volunteers called the Decolonize Collective, that platform people of colour within the punk and alternative scene. It's been going since 2017. We've put on 5 editions so far, with events now happening outside of London for the very first time. We have our very first outside of London gig in Glasgow on November 11th, called Decolonize on Tour, and that's the first in a series of gigs that will be happening outside of London. They would have been very annoyed if I didn't get that plug in.
No, that deserves a. I think that was very good. But also, Decolonize Festival deserves a round of applause because what you are doing, platforming artists, multiple artists.
Yes. For instance, Nova Twins, who you mentioned, played Decolonize Fest in 2018. Bob Villain have played Decolonize Fest. Big Joni, of course. Stephanie Phillips from Big Joni founded Decolonize Fest in 2017. So we've had a slew of absolutely amazing people of colour and black talent come through Decolonize Fest, kind of throughout the years. And coming to your question about BLM, for us, we definitely found before kind of, doors being slammed in our face. BLM happened, lockdown happened, and then all of a sudden, people kind of wanted to talk about what our opinion was. And suddenly we're getting, invites to things, to speak on things, and, huge, shout out to festivals like Supersonic Fest, who had us down. Supersonic Fest is an indie festival in Birmingham, who asked us to curate our part of their lineup and paid us to curate part of their lineup.
Wow.
Which is...
That's big.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's huge, and it's not something that's been, it's not something that would usually be talked about before the George Floyd incident. And the fact that they paid us to do it as well is something that I'm sure is rare for when you ask a black person for the benefit of their experience, and you ask them to come on board to look at your diversity and representation. People want to pick your brain for for information, and then it gets a bit funny when you do the work, but they don't want to pay you for it.
That's it.
It's real. So the fact that they came on board and they asked us to do that was great. But you're absolutely right in the sense that there was a bit of a sea change, and other artists have talked about it. I know Bob Villain have talked about their band start to pick up traction kind of right after that. But the stuff the things that were part of the conversation when they were talking about Black Lives Matter were the stuff they were already talking about on their debut album, We Live Here. It was only after that it started to pick up traction. I know Rachel Tanuri is another one who's talked about kind of experiencing success, and she's done the same thing that you've done, Bookie, in that she's had to go on Twitter and be like, stop putting me in this R&B box, stop putting me in this I'm not an R&B artist, I'm an Indian alternative artist. So it's good in that respect. It's good that people are starting to see the fruits of their labor. Big Joni are another one who have been so good for so long, but only now they're getting to play South by Southwest and play Glastonbury. And it's good. And I think you can see it externally on, those festival lineups with those increased, numbers of black artists. But with increased exposure, as you said, comes increased exposure to people who don't want to see change. And as much as that, as black artists get exposure to people who want to see them succeed, they also get put in the firing line.
Magnolia Park have made a whole TikTok on it, haven't they? Really?
Absolutely, yeah. I remember seeing Magnolia Park do a TikTok about how, you know, people comment on their things like, this is wrong, it doesn't fit with like the pop punk aesthetic, like you're ruining it. You know, it's kind of, it really is awful. But it puts you in front of those people as well as you know, the people who want to see you and want to hear your music. That's the power of the algorithm.
This is a really important point, I think, for people who work in the industry. Yes, you've got to be an ally, but you don't just get to put a post up. You've got to moderate it, because otherwise, I remember during Black Lives Matter going through brands that I believe in and trust in and just seeing their pages filled with hate. And I felt like I just felt so excluded. It was awful. And so being part of an ally is also making sure that you stand up against seeing those things. I think Nike did it really well when they had a campaign, but that was like the way they stood by it, even Colin Kaepernick, do you know what I mean? Nike have done it so well throughout the years. And I think you made some really good points. Representation is really important. And 4 major festivals that deal with rock, who are now starting to look at this, starting to pumpkin spice latte look at this levels. I mean, how many more George Floyds need to die before you start taking this seriously on your lineup? It's music. Just cater to people. It's not that hard. And Lav, I think it's really interesting hearing your perspective, because you also have a zine.
Yes, I do.
And so your zine, tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. House of Wax, I founded that in 2019 as like a part of a uni project. It was my final major project. And I basically just wanted to create a magazine where it platformed Black people and people of colour in the rock scene, whether that was like musicians or writers, just creative people in that space, graphic designers, like just creatives. It was mostly for the music side, because I just realised that, and this is in 2019, that was like 4 years ago, it's not long ago, but I just realised there wasn't enough conversations about the Black and people of colour, like artists that were making noise in the rock scene, you know. And at that point I had like Horror, who I think are such an incredible band, and like I still don't think that they've really received their flowers that much in the rock scene.
100%.
And so, you know, they were my cover amongst Don Letts, which, you know, obviously we know from what he did with The Clash, and it was incredible to speak to him as like an older guy about, you know, what his experience was like in the 70s, being like a Black man in a very white scene. But yeah, House of Wax, I wanted to create it to just have a voice and to see people like myself and to see artists who were like, wanted to also see it in like a non-tokenistic way, because it's great to see Black people and people of colour like platformed in magazines and in places now, but like not to tick boxes, but as an actual authentic, okay, this artist is really, really creating something there. And then, you know, COVID happened and I had a load of spare time, and so I made another issue, and I had Nova Twins on the front cover, and like at that point, like the zine did really, really well, and I think it was because it was 2020, everyone was listening, everyone wanted to be able to, you know, it was sort of that era of where everyone was supporting small businesses, obviously, and so it was that on top of BLM, so everyone was sort of listening to what I was saying, and I just wanted to have more of a place to, you know, because I'm a journalist, I wanted to have a place where I could write more and like write more about the pieces I feel passionate about, and then also talk about the artists that maybe if I pitched to a magazine at the time that might not have been picked up, you know, like at the time, like 2020, I still think Nova Twins were still like up and coming. I didn't necessarily have a place to put them down on a magazine. And even Horror, like it was difficult. So yeah, I just sort of created that because I was like, if nobody else is going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see how it goes. I've not continued it since, but that's because it's a lot of work. No one try and make a magazine. It is so much work.
Luke's back there nodding. He's like,
it is so much work. I mean, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, and like hopefully, like there will be a point where I have enough time and I have enough money, because it was completely self-funded. Like I just funded it entirely myself.
How?
Yeah, like out of my own pocket, like just from working. I tried to do like raise money for it, but it just kind of flopped. And I was like, I'm just gonna do this myself, and you know, for like both of the issues. But you know, I have like incredibly supportive friends, and like lots of my friends sort of bought the zine or like reposted it, and like just from the industry connections that I've made like over the years, like I had like, you know, I was really proud to just even have Don Letts on the first cover. That was like
amazing.
That's like me like 2019 like at uni lab. Like I was not a good writer in 2019. No one read that zine, I promise. But you know, the point being is that people were in support of me and they wanted to see, you know, what I was doing, and it's so important. But it's like coming away from that now, it's like obviously I've not been able to have the time to do it, but I just hope that we can come away from those things and still have that passion and still have that determination to want to support, you know, black writers and black people within the music industry, because it wasn't like, it's not just a phase, lol. You know, it wasn't just like a phase of like 2020, oh my God, like all eyes, because all eyes were on black people in 2020, let's be honest. Like everyone was, you know, really chiming in to try and be there. And whilst I really appreciate that, I would just love that to be a continuous thing, like every day, just in general, and not to be doing it as a way of to try and get out of like internalized guilt, you know, and like this white superhero kind of thing. But yeah, no, like my zine, it's something I definitely want to pick back up, but it was just an important message like at the time, and something I'm definitely really proud and happy that I managed to do.
And it's really amazing that you did that, and I think it's really amazing that I find it's so encouraging to see Gen Zs, and I'm seeing, because I assume you're Gen Z,
Yeah.
so many Gen Zs, so many melanin-blessed women who are rocking the alternative style. Because like, it was something that was so, and this is just, I know this is a bit of a tangent from what you just said, but it's something that was so rare. Like even, I remember looking at magazines and you just have like Amy Lee.
Yeah.
And there's nothing against Amy Lee. I absolutely
Queen.
love Amy Lee.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so you've got to white out your face. This really is not a thing that I can do. And it was really hard. And I think that representation, and at the end, I guess my point that I'm getting to is the amount of fucking money I have spent on this industry and on tickets. I'm a valued member of this industry. And the amount of people who were like me who dropped off because they couldn't see themselves and they were up against everything that you've both spoken about and all of that. So as we look forward, because I'm very aware that we need to come back, we need to come to your questions, there is something that I want to raise. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on this, but I think some things that came up there for me, some thoughts. Number one, what you were talking about supporting people. When you see somebody in this scene trying to thrive, supporting them is the most important thing. If I didn't have people who have helped me along my journey, I didn't have mates, I can't go hang out in rooms full of white men, I don't know what the fuck to say. I can't build those networks in the same way that other people were able to. And it is people who have helped me along my journey, including people who are here now, Adam Sagir, hello, who was such a big part when I was at my lowest and thought, this is never going to work, this is the end, this is the end. Those people are so important. So if you're watching this and you have that power, that is really important. But also, the way you sell artists, I believe, you have to work harder, because there has been years of, and not in Luke's reign, but of magazines, all of the UK magazines, all of the global magazines, teaching society that white is right, black is wrong, you don't belong here. And so not only are you just promoting an artist, you're trying to undo that from all of the from people's psyche, and people that needs to be addressed, and so people need to put more budget, more time, more spend to create this balance, because guaranteed by investing in black artists, it evolves the sound, it evolves the scene, and it will bring more audience, and it will bring more money into the scene, and it will put money in wealthy pockets.
Absolutely.
This is right. Yes.
So, going forward, that's something that I feel really passionate about. I see you nodding, Alex. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's at the very kind of core of the Decolonize ethos. Like I say, we're a completely DIY organisation. We do not get funding. Very, very, very rarely do we ever get a look in from people who are able to help us. And I think that's the same kind of thing that's going on for all kinds of artists, all kinds of black artists that are trying to get. They don't have the access to the resources. They're not, the funding's not available for them to put into someone. And I know you said that Corey Taylor was the guy who kind of helped put you on. Hugely, and I think there's something to be said for that. Like, with Big Joni, like, someone that was a big kind of advocate for them early in their career was First and More from Sonic Youth, and then Jack White eventually as well went on to back them. So I think one of the things that you kind of see with a lot of black artists coming through is that someone said, actually, no, like, now's the time to kind of open up the way and let this person come through. And it's usually an ally from, whether it be a magazine editor or it be kind of an already established artist, or, someone else from inside the music business. It's usually a white ally that's come through and kind of helped pick them up, which is brilliant. And, we're going to need more of those kind of white allies to come through and big people up, if the process is going to get better. But at the same time, I think it's important to have not only representation for artists in the music industry, but kind of all other facets of the music industry as well. Because it's hard for a black artist coming through and pouring their soul into a project and talking about their experiences. 9 times out of 10, if they want to advance their career, they have to now go and approach usually in all white gatekeepers and explain where they're coming from. And most of them are not going to understand like what their experience is. I have a friend who is who kind of has been in the punk scene in Brooklyn for a long time, and he is now working as a lawyer and runs an indie label called Insecurity Hits. I'm actually wearing his merch right now. So Mike, if you're watching this, you're welcome.
You're the best plugger, by the way. You're getting those plugs in today.
I'm very good. It's the press officer in me. Anyway, but yeah, he's someone who was going to punk shows from a very, very early age, never necessarily wanted to be in a band or be a musician. He went to school for law and wanted to use that to help bands. So he puts out their records, and then if when they kind of want to advance and want to go in to label discussions, he's able to represent them as well. And I think that's kind of what we need in those positions. We need more representation. We need black lawyers, black label bosses, and I think we need to support the people who want to do those things as well. Like decolonize. The fact that Steph thought that there is something that's missing here, and I think we need to be the ones to build it. Is super, super admirable. And there's tons and tons of projects like that are that are started by black enterprising black people that are black owned. So not only is it important to support the artists, I think it's also important to support the black people that are building the framework to try and build it, to try and bring through as many new black people to the scene as possible.
Full representation, and that goes for everybody in every sector, because when we
one little thing.
No, yeah, go.
Go ahead.
I also think that, I guess, in this, it's in support, of course, but we have to also look at, why aren't there these people here already? And we have to look at the problem is because they're not sold the idea that in our scene that it's a traditional black thing. So when you look at the top execs in music, let's look at Atlantic Records, you've got Austin Darbo there who's pushing Tion Wayne, who's selling millions, and all these type of people. They are not giving a fuck about rock music at all.
I tried to ask him about Nova Twins years ago.
Listen, Austin Darbo, I you know what, just for the sake, because I love Kerrang, I ain't even gonna say shit about these motherfuckers. But when it comes down to what's real, they're looking down over here. They don't support this shit. Like we're not black enough.
Look at the Mobos as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna get to like kind of get there. I was gonna kind of get there anyway, but it's like
Mobos, yeah, they only just now got the alternative music.
yeah, but again, look at yeah, but I know, but you have to listen. It's again the bigger picture is bro, like yeah, we can fight as black people doing all this shit, but there's the black people still don't give a fuck.
Thank you.
So I can't. It's not just like oh my god, we're not here. Like bro, we're fucking here, but at the same time, they don't give a fuck. The fight isn't just about how bad we've been put in this box from people that look like fucking Chad Krog here for 30 years. It's about why the fuck don't black people give a fuck about the rock music? Because we've been sold an idea that it doesn't exist. And it's so much deeper than fucking always finding a reason why we need more black rep. Well, we do need it, but where are they? Because it's like 3 of them. There's like 4 one week and then 3 the next week. Because they don't, it's because it's not even like they like first and foremost, let's find where the good music is, and like let's not just put people on places because they got good fathers, or they've got fucking, or they just look good and their dad was a rock star. Fuck you. It's just like let's find out why are we not here? Because we need to be here. I love rock music. I love Kerrang before none of you gave a fuck about me in this room. I was literally learned to play the guitar by watching Billy Martin's Fingers from Good Charlotte. Like I gave a fuck. I care and I will die for this shit. Like I literally will. I don't even know why I'm here sometimes. I'm literally talk so much shit. I just feel like I'm getting in trouble all the time. So it's like, but like I said, the bigger fight is why are we not here? Like we can blame so many people, but you know who's to blame? Who knows? Because I have not got the answer. And if I was to sit here today and tell you the answer, I'm a madman. Absolute fucking idiot who thinks I know it all. Fuck you, I don't know shit. I just know a certain bit of a problem. And you know what, I'm fighting so hard to just be one bit of a representation now, because I've started to realize how fucking important it is. Yeah. And let's find out, let's not demonize every fucking person in the world, black or white, because it's not no one's fault. It's the way their synapses are fucking wired and the way we've been seeing images for 30 years of our lives. So let's find out how to undo this shit, then find out where the black representation comes from, and let's push it forward. We're black rock stars. I work with the biggest rock stars in the fucking game, and you know what comes from? Talent. Not because I'm a token black man, it's because I fucking sing my ass off and I rap my ass off and I'll scream like a madman. And I'll put that shit on a stage and I'll deliver it to you and make you give a fuck. Not because you have to give a fuck because I'm some black man in the scene. Fuck you. Just like, I'm not there for that shit. And I'm sorry. I'm tired of like, I get it. I agree with everything, but the big problem is why is one of my closest friends telling me I'm too white? And but he's a black man who has to live by the black rules. You've already put a fucking limit on yourself before you've jumped off with your wings, you dickhead. It's because, like, I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you. Because you're a problem, and you're the reason why you're not buying my single for me to be next to these motherfuckers. Because you don't believe in your blackness is set for you. I'm sick of it. You're not, you die as an unrepresentation, and it's your fault. It's your fault for putting yourself in the box, die in it. And now the coffin and fuck off.
Thank you so much. Now we have 2 minutes to drink and do social media, so enjoy those 2-minute drinks.